Helena Blavatsky, the renowned 19th-century mystic and co-founder of the Theosophical Society, understood something profound about human nature that most people never realize. She recognized that the feeling of not belonging, that sense of being an outsider, of not quite fitting in anywhere, isn't a personal flaw or a sign that something is wrong with you. Instead, it's a spiritual indicator of something much deeper. According to Blavatsky's teachings, this feeling of displacement is actually evidence of your soul's evolutionary journey. In her seminal work, The Secret Doctrine, she explained that advanced souls often incarnate into physical reality with a deep sense of homesickness, not for a place on earth, but for higher planes of existence from which they've descended. This isn't about being superior to others, but about being at a different stage of spiritual development. Blavatsky taught that souls reincarnate many times, each lifetime, offering opportunities for growth and learning. Those who feel chronically out of place may be what she called old souls, beings who have experienced numerous incarnations and carry within them the memory traces of more evolved states of consciousness. The feeling of not belonging, therefore, isn't something to overcome or fix. It's something to understand and honor. It's your soul's way of telling you that you're meant for something greater than the ordinary experiences that satisfy most people. You're here on a mission that goes beyond the typical human concerns of material success, social acceptance, or conventional happiness. Blavatsky believed that recognizing this truth was the first step toward understanding your true purpose in this incarnation. The very fact that you feel different suggests that you are different, and that this difference is not a burden, but a gift. Chapter 2. The Doctrine of Cycles and Soul Evolution. Blavatsky's teachings on cycles reveal why some people feel perpetually out of sync with the world around them. She explained that everything in the universe moves in great cycles, from the smallest atomic particles to entire civilizations and solar systems. Human souls, too, are subject to these cycles, incarnating and reincarnating as they progress through different stages of evolution. According to her doctrine, souls don't all evolve at the same rate. Some are what she called young souls, experiencing their early incarnations and fully engaged with material existence. They find deep satisfaction in physical pleasures, social status, and worldly achievements. For them, fitting into society feels natural because their consciousness is aligned with the material plane. But other souls have been through many more cycles of incarnation. These old souls carry within their consciousness the accumulated wisdom and experiences of multiple lifetimes. They've learned that material success doesn't bring lasting happiness, that social approval is fleeting, and that there must be something more meaningful than the endless pursuit of external validation. This is why you might feel like you're watching a play in which everyone else knows their lines perfectly, while you're struggling to understand why the play matters at all. You're not broken or defective. You're simply operating from a different level of consciousness than those around you. Blavatsky taught that old souls often incarnate during times of transition, when humanity needs guides to help navigate periods of spiritual awakening. They come equipped with an inner knowing that conventional reality isn't the whole story, which is precisely why they feel like strangers in their own world. Understanding this cycle can be profoundly liberating. Your sense of not belonging isn't evidence that you need to try harder to fit in. It's evidence that you've outgrown the need to find your identity through external belonging. Chapter 3. The Veil of Maya and Seeing Through Illusion. One of Blavatsky's most important teachings concerns what Eastern philosophy calls Maya, the veil of illusion that obscures spiritual reality. She taught that most people live their entire lives caught up in this illusion, believing that the material world they perceive through their five senses represents the totality of existence. But some individuals are born with what she called spiritual sight, the ability to perceive beyond the veil of Maya. These people naturally sense that there's more to reality than what appears on the surface. They intuitively know that the daily dramas that consume most people's attention are relatively unimportant in the grand scheme of cosmic evolution. This spiritual sight is both a gift and a burden. It's a gift because it allows you to access deeper truths about existence and your purpose. It's a burden because it makes you feel disconnected from a world that seems obsessed with illusions you can see right through. Blavatsky explained that people with this enhanced perception often struggle to find meaning in conventional activities. Small talk feels pointless when you're aware of the profound spiritual realities underlying all existence. Career advancement seems trivial when you understand that true success is measured in terms of soul growth, not material accumulation. This is why you might feel like you're speaking a different language than those around you. You're not trying to be difficult or superior. You're simply operating from a different level of awareness. While others are focused on the shadows on the cave wall, you're turning around to see the fire that creates those shadows. The key insight from Blavatsky's teachings is that this enhanced perception is meant to be used in service of humanity's spiritual evolution. You're not here to judge those who are still caught in illusion, but to serve as a bridge between the material and spiritual worlds. Chapter 4. The Lonely Path of the Spiritual Pioneer. Blavatsky often wrote about the inherent loneliness of the spiritual path, particularly for those she called pioneers of consciousness. These are individuals who are naturally drawn to explore the mysteries of existence, often long before such exploration becomes socially acceptable or mainstream. In her view, spiritual pioneers are souls who have volunteered to incarnate during times when new levels of consciousness are beginning to emerge in humanity. They serve as scouts, exploring uncharted territories of spiritual understanding and preparing the way for others to follow. But pioneers, by definition, must walk alone for significant portions of their journey. This explains why you might feel most at home when you're by yourself, pursuing your own spiritual interests and investigations. It's not that you don't enjoy human company. It's that you need substantial periods of solitude to process the deep insights and spiritual downloads that come through your heightened sensitivity. Blavatsky taught that this need for solitude isn't antisocial behavior, it's spiritual necessity. Just as a radio antenna needs to be positioned correctly to receive clear signals, your consciousness needs space and quiet to receive the spiritual guidance and wisdom that you're meant to access and eventually share with others. The loneliness you feel isn't a sign that you should try harder to connect with people who don't understand your interests. Instead, it's a natural consequence of being called to explore realms of consciousness that most people aren't ready to explore yet. Your task isn't to convince others to join you, but to make the journey and bring back what wisdom you can for the benefit of humanity's collective evolution. Understanding this can transform your relationship with solitude from something you endure to something you embrace as a necessary part of your spiritual work. Chapter 5. The Mission of Advanced Souls. According to Blavatsky's teachings, souls don't incarnate randomly. Each lifetime has a specific purpose, and advanced souls often choose particularly challenging incarnations because they have important work to accomplish. If you've always felt like you don't quite belong in this world, it may be because you didn't come here primarily to belong. You came here to serve. Blavatsky taught that advanced souls often incarnate with what she called spiritual amnesia, a temporary forgetting of their true nature and mission. This forgetting is necessary because if you remembered everything about your spiritual identity and purpose, you wouldn't be able to fully engage with the human experience and learn the lessons this incarnation is meant to teach. But the feeling of not belonging is often the first crack in this spiritual amnesia. It's your soul's way of whispering to your conscious mind that you're here for reasons that go beyond the ordinary human agenda of survival, reproduction, and material success. Your mission might involve serving as a bridge between different worlds, helping people who are ready to expand their consciousness make the transition from purely material awareness to spiritual understanding. Or you might be here to anchor higher frequencies of energy into the Earth's consciousness field, simply by maintaining your connection to spiritual reality while living in a physical body. Sometimes the mission is simply to model a different way of being human, to show by example that it's possible to live with integrity, compassion, and spiritual awareness, even in a world that often seems to reward the opposite qualities. The important thing to understand is that your sense of not belonging isn't a problem to be solved. It's information about why you're here. Instead of trying to force yourself to fit into a world that feels foreign, consider that you might be meant to help transform that world into something more aligned with spiritual truth. Chapter 6. Understanding Your Spiritual Homesickness. Blavatsky wrote extensively about what she termed spiritual homesickness, the deep longing that many advanced souls feel for something they can't quite name or locate. This isn't nostalgia for a childhood home or a past relationship. It's a profound yearning for a state of being that feels more real and authentic than anything available in ordinary physical reality. She explained that this homesickness is actually a form of spiritual memory. Your soul remembers existing in higher dimensions of consciousness where love, wisdom, and understanding were the natural atmosphere. When you incarnate into dense physical reality, part of your consciousness continues to long for those more refined states of existence. This is why you might feel most at peace in natural settings, during meditation, or when engaged in creative or spiritual activities. These experiences temporarily lift you back toward the frequencies your soul remembers as home. The feeling of not belonging in ordinary social situations is your soul's way of saying that these environments don't match your true vibrational frequency. Blavatsky taught that this homesickness isn't meant to be cured by finding the right external circumstances. No job, relationship, or living situation will permanently satisfy this longing, because what you're really yearning for is a state of consciousness, not a place or situation. Instead, spiritual homesickness is meant to motivate you towards spiritual practice and development. It's designed to keep you seeking, growing, and evolving. The very dissatisfaction you feel with ordinary reality is what drives you to explore extraordinary reality. Understanding this can bring enormous relief. You can stop trying to find your place in a world that was never meant to feel like home, and start focusing on the spiritual practices that reconnect you with your true nature. Your sense of displacement becomes a compass, pointing you toward your authentic spiritual path. Chapter 7. The Challenge of Living Between Worlds. One of the most difficult aspects of being what Blavatsky called a bridge consciousness is learning to live simultaneously in the material and spiritual worlds. You can't abandon physical reality entirely because you've incarnated here for important reasons, but you also can't ignore your spiritual nature without feeling empty and disconnected. Blavatsky taught that advanced souls must learn to be in the world, but not of it. This means fully participating in human life while maintaining awareness that the physical world is just one dimension of a much larger reality. It requires developing what she called spiritual discrimination, the ability to engage with material concerns without being consumed by them. This balancing act is one reason why you might feel exhausted by activities that energize other people. Social gatherings, competitive situations, and materially focused conversations can drain your energy because you're operating on multiple levels of consciousness simultaneously. While others are simply engaged with the surface level of interaction, you're also processing the deeper emotional and energetic dynamics at play. The key is learning to protect your energy while still being genuinely present with others. This might mean setting clear boundaries about how much social interaction you can handle, choosing your companions carefully, and ensuring you have sufficient solitude to recharge your spiritual batteries. Blavatsky emphasized that this isn't about being antisocial or superior to others. It's about honoring your spiritual sensitivity while still fulfilling your human responsibilities. You can be compassionate and helpful to others without absorbing their emotional chaos or getting pulled into dramas that distract you from your spiritual purpose. Learning to live between worlds is perhaps the greatest skill an advanced soul must develop. It allows you to serve as a bridge, helping others expand their consciousness while maintaining your own connection to higher truth. Chapter 8. The Purpose of Spiritual Isolation. Blavatsky understood that many advanced souls experience periods of profound isolation that can feel like punishment but are actually essential for spiritual development. She taught that isolation serves several important purposes for those who are meant to serve as spiritual pioneers and teachers. First, isolation forces you to develop a direct relationship with spiritual reality rather than relying on others for validation or guidance. When you can't find understanding or support in the external world, you're compelled to turn inward and develop your own connection to divine wisdom. This inner connection becomes unshakable because it's based on direct experience rather than borrowed beliefs. Second, periods of isolation allow for intensive spiritual development that would be impossible in the midst of constant social interaction. Just as artists need solitude to create their masterpieces, souls need solitude to integrate the higher frequencies of consciousness they're meant to anchor on earth. Third, isolation teaches compassion for others who feel alone and misunderstood. You can't truly help someone navigate the challenges of spiritual awakening unless you've walked that path yourself, including the difficult passages through loneliness and alienation. Blavatsky also taught that what appears to be isolation on the physical plane is often accompanied by increased connection on the spiritual plane. As you become less attached to finding understanding among humans, you become more open to guidance from higher sources of wisdom. The isolation you experience isn't meant to be permanent. It's a preparation phase, during which you develop the spiritual strength and clarity you'll need when you're called to step forward and serve others. But this preparation requires going through the refining fire of solitude, where everything except your essential spiritual nature is stripped away. Understanding this purpose can transform your experience of isolation from suffering into spiritual training. Chapter 9. Recognizing your spiritual family. While Blavatsky acknowledged that advanced souls often feel disconnected from mainstream society, she also taught that everyone has what she called a spiritual family, other souls who share similar levels of consciousness and spiritual purpose. The challenge is recognizing these soul connections when you encounter them. Your spiritual family members might not look like what you expect. They could be people of any age, background, or social status. What makes them family isn't external similarity, but internal resonance. When you meet a member of your spiritual family, you'll often experience an immediate sense of recognition, as if you've known each other much longer than the current lifetime suggests. These connections feel different from ordinary friendships or relationships. There's less need to explain yourself because these people naturally understand your perspective. Conversations flow easily into deep, meaningful territory without the awkwardness that often characterizes your interactions with others. Blavatsky taught that spiritual family members often incarnate in clusters, choosing to be alive at the same time so they can support each other's missions and remind each other of their true nature. when the spiritual amnesia of incarnation threatens to overwhelm them. But she also warned that spiritual family relationships require different skills than ordinary relationships. Because these connections operate on such a deep level, they can trigger intense spiritual growth periods that might be challenging to navigate. The people who understand you best are also the ones most likely to mirror back your unhealed patterns and challenge you to evolve. The key is learning to recognize the difference between spiritual family and ordinary social connections. With your spiritual family, you don't need to pretend to be someone else or hide your true interests and perceptions. These relationships nourish your soul rather than draining your energy, even when they're challenging. Finding even one or two members of your spiritual family can completely transform your experience of being human, providing the understanding and support you need to fulfill your spiritual mission. Chapter 10. The Gift of Spiritual Sensitivity. What many people experience as the curse of not fitting in, Blavatsky revealed to be one of the greatest gifts a soul can possess: spiritual sensitivity. This heightened awareness that makes you feel different from others is actually evidence of your soul's advanced development and your readiness to serve as a channel for higher consciousness. Spiritual sensitivity manifests in many ways. You might be highly empathic, picking up on the emotions and energy of others without conscious effort. You might be naturally intuitive, receiving insights and information through channels that can't be explained by ordinary logic. You might be drawn to mystical experiences, philosophical questions, or creative expressions that feel foreign to those around you. This sensitivity often comes with challenges. You might feel overwhelmed in crowded places, drained by negative people, or disturbed by the suffering you perceive in the world. But Blavatsky taught that these challenges are the price of having access to spiritual information and energy that can benefit humanity. The key is learning to manage your sensitivity rather than seeing it as a burden. This means developing practices that help you maintain your energetic boundaries, distinguishing between your own emotions and those you're picking up from others, and finding ways to process the spiritual insights you receive without becoming overwhelmed by them. Blavatsky emphasized that spiritual sensitivity is meant to be used in service. Your ability to perceive what others miss, to sense the deeper currents beneath surface appearances, and to access wisdom from non-physical sources is meant to help guide humanity's spiritual evolution. Instead of wishing you were less sensitive so you could fit in better, consider developing skills that allow you to use your sensitivity more effectively. Your differences aren't obstacles to overcome. They're tools you're meant to master and use for the greater good. Chapter 11. Transforming alienation into service. The ultimate teaching Blavatsky offered about feeling like you don't belong is that this sense of alienation is meant to be transformed into compassionate service. Once you understand that your feeling of being different is actually evidence of your spiritual mission, you can begin to use your unique perspective to help others who are struggling with similar feelings. Many people in today's world are experiencing spiritual awakening and finding themselves feeling disconnected from a society that seems increasingly focused on material pursuits while ignoring deeper questions of meaning and purpose. These awakening souls need guides who have already navigated the challenging territory of spiritual development while living in a largely unconscious world. Your experience of not belonging qualifies you to help others who are beginning to question the conventional assumptions about life, success, and happiness. You can offer understanding, perspective, and practical guidance to those who are just beginning to realize that they, too, might be here for purposes that go beyond the ordinary human agenda. This doesn't necessarily mean becoming a formal teacher or healer, though it might. It could mean simply being authentic about your own spiritual journey and being available to listen when others begin to share their own experiences of feeling different or searching for deeper meaning. Blavatsky taught that the most powerful form of service is often simply modeling a different way of being human. When you live with integrity, pursue spiritual growth, and maintain your connection to higher truth, despite the pressures to conform, you give others permission to do the same. Your sense of not belonging becomes a bridge that helps others cross from unconscious living to conscious spiritual development. The very experiences that once made you feel isolated become the foundation for meaningful connection with others who are ready to awaken to their own spiritual nature. Chapter 12. Embracing your true nature. The final and most important teaching Blavatsky offered about the experience of not belonging is this: the goal isn't to find a way to fit into a world that feels foreign to your soul. The goal is to recognize that your sense of displacement is actually guidance from your higher self, directing you toward your authentic spiritual path and purpose. When you stop trying to force yourself to find satisfaction in experiences that don't resonate with your soul's frequency, you create space for your true nature to emerge. This true nature isn't defined by external achievements, social roles, or others' expectations. It's the eternal, spiritual aspect of yourself that exists beyond all incarnations and carries the wisdom of your soul's entire evolutionary journey. Embracing your true nature means honoring your spiritual interests, even when others don't understand them. It means following your intuition, even when it leads you away from conventional paths. It means prioritizing inner development over external success and soul growth over social approval. This doesn't mean becoming isolated or rejecting all human connection. Instead, it means approaching relationships and activities